submitted by fax to the Spartanburg Herald Journal, posted on the bulletin board in the town lobby of the town hall and on the town's website. Let's stand for the invocation. Father, we come to you tonight, as always, looking for you to help us, to guide us. We pray for our town, this town of Packlet, God. We pray for the leaders here. We pray for their desire to see this town to be the best as it can be. Father, we pray for our nation. We celebrate the coming 4th of July. We are thankful that we have had 250 years of freedom in this country. Father, we cherish the freedom. We know that many people have gave the ultimate sacrifice to give us this freedom. We don't take it for granted. Help us tonight. In your name we do pray. Amen. Amen. Let's pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda. I'd like to amend old business D. Instead of consider on second reading ordinance 2026-10 to rezone parcel 3-33-03-027.00, the Pine Street from R20 to C4. I'd like it to be considered on first reading. And the reason being is because last time we amended it, but we didn't really amend it, and we didn't have a public hearing on it. And now we have a recommendation from the Planning Commission, which that's the appropriate steps. So we did it out of order, and I'd like to give an opportunity for us to have our second reading in August and have a public hearing with that, since what we really should have done last month was to deny the C2 and send it back to the Planning Commission.
I'll second that motion.
Point of order, if you don't mind. That item is already put under new business. That's actually 2026-13. The one that you had mentioned on there, 2026-10 for R20 to C4, I believe is going to be the SHP property that's up on 9. The 6855 South Pine Street on 12B is that change that you're talking about. It's already been put into
That's been fixed. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this one is the one next door. That's the hydraulics or whatever. Okay. Sorry. My bad.
All right. We have a presentation tonight in the Stormwater Master Plan.
Good evening. My name is Chris Tollison with Goodwin Mills in Kaywood. The purpose of tonight's meeting our presentation is to wrap up the Stormwater Master Plan, but that we've been working with the town of Packlet on for some time. If you remember, we did a presentation to the council at the end of last year where we kind of reviewed all the work involved in the master plan. I've included that in this presentation, but I'm going to run through that real quick because I think the main thing is the difference here is that we have come up with the highest priority CIP projects that we recommend, so I wanted to be able to go through some of those. But the four main components of the master plan were first doing field inventory work. We sent out crews with GPS and tablets to inspect all the structures, try to get pipe sizes, try to work out the resolve the connectivity of all the stormwater pipes and open channels in the city. From that, or based on that, we created an existing conditions hydrologic and hydraulic model that then we revised based on the conceptual improvements we recommended. And then we created a long list of recommended improvements, or CIPs, but then we use a matrix that we have developed to score each one so that we can separate the CIPs based on high priority, medium priority, and low priority. So just real quickly, the data gathering, like I mentioned, we went out and identified priority drainage areas. We did field mapping for structures, pipes, and open channels throughout the city. We did photographs and inventoried problem areas, and recorded community concerns and comments that mainly we acquired in the field when we were out doing field work, just from meeting with residents and them telling us areas that were a problem. So this is just a kind of a summary of everything we inventoried. We inventoried over 300 structures, which are inlets, junction boxes, point features, and then we inventoried 6 miles of pipes and 23 miles of open channels. These pictures just show some of our findings that were kind of relevant. The L-shaped structures you see, I'm sure you all see these all over the Packlet Mills area. The upper picture in the middle is from one of the problem areas. I believe, I don't know the name of the street, but I believe it's right up here.
Cameron Street.
Yeah, it is Cameron Street. There's that retaining wall, and we know that it was a flooding issue there. The bottom images show the square concrete slab is a inlet, and we'll talk about this more, but it has no access to it, so we can't really get in there. The picture in the bottom right-hand corner is what you want to see. We're a structure with a manhole that you can get down in it. You can see the pipes coming in and out. You can measure the capacity, see the pipe material, and almost more importantly, see the condition, if it's full of sediment or sediment was a problem or debris has accumulated. And that kind of goes into the second slide. The two pictures on the top are what you want to have stormwater structures. The one on the top left is a inlet, but it has a manhole. Manholes and access is extremely important because, like I just said, you can get in and see what's going on and work out the connectivity of pipes upstream and downstream. The pictures on the bottom are what you don't want to see. And we found even these are more modern inlets, unlike the historic drainage system within the Packlet Mills area, but they still don't have manhole access. So when we tried to inventory them, we couldn't, because you can't get in them. And I'll mention this again, but any future work y'all do on stormwater, installing stormwater infrastructure, please keep that in mind. You always want to being able to access these structures to check their condition is extremely important, and as important, it allows you to clean them out because it's very common in stormwater systems anywhere you go that sediment gets in there, debris, and it interferes with the flow. And sometimes areas that are having flooding, that's all it is. The pipes are fine, and plus the condition of pipes. Sometimes you have collapsed pipes, so just keep that in mind for any future installations the city implements. This slide just summarizes when we were out in the field. Residents we came across, and there's 8 different locations that they, and this, by the way, y'all have reports. These are all explained in more detail in their reports, but there were 8 locations that residents pointed out to us where there were problem areas. Just for example, the cloth warehouse is in there. So when we got into the stormwater modeling phase, the first thing we had to do is delineate the main primary drainage basins that contain the majority of the city's stormwater infrastructure. So we delineated 7 total drainage areas, and for each one of these drainage areas, these watersheds, we created a H&H model for the entire watershed. The 5 watersheds that are on the north side, that blue line is somewhere right around Main Street. Those 5 watersheds all drain to the Packlet River. The 2 to the south drain to the south. So just to keep everything oriented, that's how the drainage patterns work in the area. Okay, so getting into the actual H&H modeling, what we use for watershed scale models is a model called StormWise. It used to be called ICPR. StormWise uses a system of nodes and links. Nodes are point features anywhere they're typically placed if you have an inlet, a junction box, and the model calculates water surface elevations at each of those points. The nodes are connected by links, and there's 2 forms of links. Some links represent pipe links, so the nodes are which are inlets or structures are connected by pipes, or they can be connected by channel links, which are open channels or ditches. We mainly modeled the primary drainage pathways throughout these watersheds, and we modeled them based on calculated flows based on the 25-year, 24-hour storm event, which according to NatList, the NOAA NatList 14 here in Packlet is 6.52 inches for a 24-hour, 25-year storm event. And for each of the basins, we modeled existing conditions, and then we incorporated our recommended improvements, and then modeled those also. So this slide just represents, for each of the basins, this example is the Lower Packlet River South Basin. And this is in the report. We created a table, which is the one on the left, that shows for each node where the model calculates water surface elevations, we set what's called a warning stage, where to us represents if the water surface elevation gets above that, it could present a problem. An example would be at a culvert on the upstream side. We would place it about at the road surface elevation, and so if the model water surface elevation exceeded that, then we would know that that's a problem because it would overtop the road. And then also for each basin, based on the model water surface elevations, we created a kind of a preliminary list of recommended improvements that would solve most of those problems. So this slide, I think the next one goes into the Packlet Mills, because that was kind of a very complicated thing to model. We went to the park on the west side of Packlet Mills and took measurements for that open channel. And what we learned inventorying throughout the Packlet Mills area is that those trapezoidal channels are pretty consistent in the same size. You can't see it on that sketch on the right, kind of details the approximate sizes. The picture in the middle is also in the park, and it's hard to see, but the sidewalk that covers the trapezoidal channel, which is most of the cases throughout Packlet Mills, you can see the trapezoidal channel underneath the sidewalk. So these are a couple more pictures of Packlet Mills. I believe this is across the river, and this we just wanted to show kind of another typical case in a situation where the trapezoidal channel is underneath the sidewalk. The image on the left shows, and this was very typical. You have the sidewalk, the trapezoidal channel is underneath the sidewalk. Adjacent to it is basically a gutter. The flow is directed to off the street, and at the end, there's that L-shaped concrete inlet that directs water into the trapezoidal channel underneath the sidewalk. This just represents one of our models. It's also kind of hard to see, but the picture on the left shows the links and nodes for the area around the City Hall area. And then the image on the right shows once we decide on an inlet we want to model to, we subdivide the drainage areas into subbasins, because that's needed for us to calculate the flow of each of the subbasins and then put it into an inlet. All right, so once we came up with all these recommended improvements, we we have a matrix that we use for a lot of similar projects like this. And I didn't include all the details in it. Once again, they're in the report. But basically, we have a system for establishing high-tier characteristics, middle-tier characteristics, and low-tier characteristics. And we have multipliers based on their importance. And what we do with this matrix is enter in all these characteristics for each recommended improvement, because we're trying to identify the highest priority ones. This is also a hard one to see in your reports. One of the last couple of pages, we have 11 by 17 fold out where you can see it a little bit better. But this is the list of all the high priority CFP projects we came up with. And we will go through each of those now. Also, at the end of the report, there's another 11 by 17 map, and this shows all those projects. The red points and text are the high priority ones, high priority CFP projects. The blue ones represent the lower priority. Also, for the high priority CFP projects, we came up with an estimate of probable, this is really an engineer's opinion of probable cost. I put this slide in. We tried to include as much detail as possible, but what I want to emphasize on this is we're just trying to arrive at a kind of a ballpark figure to help y'all decide, the process for deciding what projects you might want to implement. These are not intended to be 100% accurate because they're going off of very limited information. If the city decides to pursue one of them, then there's going to be obviously a lot more work put into it, a topographic survey to figure out exactly how the elevation works in the area. And then you can start narrowing down much more detailed and designing more detailed solutions. But we have these for each of the high priority CFP projects, like I said, just to help guide city council with those decisions on what to implement. Okay, so this first one deals with the Packlet Mills area. Because of the very little, almost no access to these trapezoidal channels, we couldn't assess the condition, we couldn't assess the connectivity in a lot of areas. We could assume it in a lot of areas just from going downhill and assuming where they were connected. But we think the best thing to do in this area is to do further investigation, which is the best way to do that is to take CCT cameras, put them in the system and in these trapezoidal channels and run them so you can figure out, one, the condition, if they're blocked. Because they're so hard to access, I would be surprised if any maintenance has ever been done, because the L-shaped inlets are tiny, so you can't even get in there. So I would imagine a lot of these channels that otherwise might carry a decent amount of flow could be in terrible shape. They could be blocked with sediment and debris. They could be collapsed. And I'm highly suspicious that a lot of them dead end that was development has occurred. They've just been cut off. So in the Packlet Mills area, before we could make any educated recommendations for design, we felt that needed to be done. But as we were talking a minute ago, another thing to consider is, I mean, I know that the town wants to hold on to, I mean, this is such a unique, historic, and uniquely designed drainage system. I know you want to hold on to as much of it as possible, but you also might want to consider in some areas where the flooding is especially bad, just to rip it out and put in modern infrastructure that you know is going to handle it. But that's up to y'all and how much of it you want to preserve.
On that last slide, just want the council to be aware, we've already applied for a grant for the video pipe inspection and should hear from that in the next few months that ACOG's working on. And we've started working on number 2 as well.
When you're talking about preserving this stuff, the trapezoidal things, we can't see them for the most part anyway, correct? So if we modernized it, it wouldn't change, would it change the retaining walls? Would it take away stuff like that? Or just essentially the sidewalk would have to be torn up, new stuff would be put in, and then we just pave back over it? And you would never see, I mean, I understand the historical relevance,
There's probably
but
different ways you could do it. I mean, you could put pipes, kind of on the edge of the street. I mean, typically the pipes are in the right of way, and have modern, you know, catch basins like single wing or double wing inlets, single wing and double wing catch basins that have large inlets. And just if you remember, the little ones we saw were, I mean, the opening might only be like 4 inches high and 8 inches wide. But modern catch basins, you're talking about, you know, double wing catch basin has an opening of 12 feet. So you can get a lot more water in there. Single wing catch basins are about 8 feet. So you would be greatly increasing the size of the openings to get a lot more stormwater in there. Plus, you know, the size of the pipes would be much larger so they can carry a lot more water.
I think maybe what you're getting at is you're not going to notice that those trapezoids, because we can't see them now, right? They're underneath the sidewalks. So even if we replace them, it's not like the ditches that we can see that are that trapezoid. It would be something that we would never see.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
you're right.
Yeah.
So you just took them out. You don't see them anyway. But.
okay.
So this slide, we work with a company called Augusta Industrial, and they gave us some prices. They do a lot of this work for us. And so we just gave y'all some prices so you could see what you might be, you know, the prices you might be incurring. So to do the CCTV, which they just put a camera on wheels and run it down the pipes or the channels, the price was $2.25 per linear foot for over 1,000 feet, and then if it's less than 1,000 feet, you know, a much higher rate of $8.45. And then cleaning out the structures or any debris they found, they said that they gave us a per hour fee of $285 per hour, which, you know, just kind of the light cleaning 3 passes. They also mentioned the waste disposal would be done at a location designated by the town, and then they would need water for the maintenance, and that would be provided by the town. Okay, so this gets into some of the more specific CIP projects that, once again, in the matrix were rated as the highest priority. So this first one is the cloth warehouse. When we tried to inventory this, we couldn't get to it because there's a fence, and then it was always flooded. But my understanding, I think Patrick told us this, that there is a grate there. So what we recommend is getting in there and using CCTV, popping the grate, and seeing where it drains to, because it's very possible that, I mean, it's possible that the pipe has the capacity it needs to drain it, but it obviously could be cut off too, or it could be filled with sediment. So It's possible that what's there could work if it was cleaned out and wherever, if it is cut off, it could be extended. The price we put in here was over $300,000, but that was based on putting in a new grate and structure and new pipes all the way to the river. So once you investigate it with CCTV and figure out exactly what's going on, you'd have a better, more informed, more information to decide what needs to be done there. This is on Cameron Street. This isn't ours. This isn't our conceptual design. This was a form of Summit Engineering. And their solution was to install grate inlets at 3 different locations and 3 different drainage systems and drain it to the north into the woods across Cameron Street. And I believe that price was around $405,000.
This was a situation where the sidewalk has collapsed, is below grade, and it's completely filled with sediment. And when Summit looked at it, it was basically abandoning the existing trapezoid system and then putting in something brand new in this particular area. This area, if you've talked to some of the residents, their backyards gets flooded regularly. Their crawl spaces or basements gets flooded regularly. And this was an opportunity to try to fix some of the issues that are down there.
And I think there's a swale behind those homes that runs to the west. Okay, so this is Woodland Circle at Woodland Court. It's not the best image, but so this is the northeast corner of Woodland Circle and Woodland Court. Patrick pointed out to us there's a drainage issue there. The culvert underneath Woodland Circle needs maintenance. It's almost completely full of sediment. But even if it was cleaned out and you replaced, put in a larger pipe there, the other problem is it just discharges into a low area next to that home on the left. So I could see where the flooding would be a problem there. So there's a couple things you could do there. You could grade a swale for where that culvert discharges and direct the flow, convey the flow through the swale or roadside ditch all the way past the homes into the woods and in the direction of the creek downstream. Or you could just put a junction box on the downstream end of that culvert and pipe it underground along those homes. This is also Woodland Circle, but it's in a little bit to the south in the southeast corner. And here what's happened is there's a culvert underneath Woodland Circle. And as you can see on the downstream end, it's completely collapsed because of severe erosion happening around it. So obviously the culvert needs to be replaced. I would recommend, one of the problems is that culvert is 90 degrees, it crosses the road 90 degrees from the drainage ditch that's feeding it, which is a problem because the water doesn't get into the culvert efficiently. So something you could do is change the angle of that culvert, put a head wall on the upstream side to help get the water in the culvert more efficiently, and then put another head wall on the downstream end so that it discharges into the roadside ditch on the downstream end. And you might have to cast it in place, but you could protect that shoulder on the north side of the road. And as water comes around the bend in that roadside ditch, you'd be discharging in a better situation. All right, so this is Royal Oak Drive near Oak Road. And I think this is another one Patrick told us about, that at Royal Oak Drive, which is the picture on the right, there's a low point where water accumulates and has nowhere to go. So this would be a good place to do a topographic survey, because it'd be real important to find exactly where that low point is. If it is in the road, you can see that little circle, which is the lowest contour at the road. If that truly is the lowest point, then you could put a grade inlet and pipe across the road to the north into the woods where there is a little bit of a swale that actually goes through the woods and passes through a culvert downstream at Oak Road. Something else to consider here is that, I know it must be private property, but there's a big open green space you can see on the picture on the right. And that to me looks like a good opportunity. If you wanted to implement green infrastructure, you could put a bioswale in there. So the water, because there's a lot of water coming downhill, and you could capture it in that bioswale, which would help infiltrate some of it. And then you could have an under drain that goes underneath Royal Oak Drive, and you could handle it that way.
There's a grant funding that's available through the South Carolina, and I can't think of the department right now, that you can use to acquire property that is in flood areas, that is not buildable anyway, and go to the property owner and provide them fair market value if they're interested in selling. But there's grant money to be able to use to buy that, and then, like you said, put in basically a bioswale, like what I call a giant rain garden kind of thing, to be able to hold some of that water in as it's coming through, and then be able to pipe it back underneath the road that's there.
And in the report, these sheets, we call them CIP sheets, are in the appendix. And I included some pictures of other bioswales that we've done. I don't know if you're familiar with what they look like. We have a PhD that works for us, and he got a PhD in green infrastructure. So he's involved with implementing green structure all over the Southeast, and there's some pictures in there of projects that he constructed.
I have a question. Go back, Patrick. So, at the beginning of Royal Oak Drive, right there where it says North Highway 150, is it flooding back there at Oak Road where it says New Asbury, which is there's a house there, that church is no longer there, there's a new house. So is the water kind of flooding from that beginning through the woods back to that spot, because it floods there too? So is it cutting like through the woods when it's flooding, the flow of the water, causing it to flood back there on Oak Road?
You can answer, or I can answer.
I mean, I would just say that if you were to zoom out and see all the contours, you can see everything south of there it looks like it's pretty steep, and you can see a lot of water is coming down from that direction, from the south.
Yeah, if you look on there and you see that green line, or the orange line that goes underneath there, then the green line that comes out into the forest area. What had happened in the past is at that right green dot up there where it was leaving the culvert underneath 150, it was clogging up or stopping up. And so DOT came out with an excavator and cleaned it out so it could continue to flow through. So that kept it from flooding on 150. But what you've got on Royal Oak is, because the median right there on the side is higher than the road, then it ends up pulling up in that particular area. But even if it does get into that forest, if you notice on there, as he mentioned on the bottom of that picture, the contour lines are a little tighter together than they are on the top section of there. That whole area is very, very flat. And so what's happening is when water's coming in there, it's just sitting there. And so something needs to be done. And you've seen it with, I think, with the school bus when they come through there, that it's flooded, that something's got to be done to get that water into those woods. The issue is it's not even getting into the woods. And so when you come out there and look at it on a rainy day, that you'll see on the other side of Royal Oak, the median or the ground level ends up being a couple inches above where the road is. And so the road could be milled and paved and redone. It could be cut back in terms of lowering the median on there. Or you could end up having the water just collect on that south side where the private property owner is, if the town wanted to purchase that property, and then to put in some type of like park bioswale kind of thing, that to collect all that water there, and then send it underneath the road over to the other side.
Thank you.
All right, so this is Sunny Acres Road. This is another one that Patrick told us about where there's a problem with water on the north side of the road getting to the south side. Now, what we found in our inventory is first I was thinking, well, maybe there's just no culverts, but there are 3 culverts along that road. 2 are 18-inch RCPs, one's a 24. And so I feel like there's sufficient capacity to get water across, but one of the main problems is the ditches are not in good shape. And you could regrade some of those ditches to get flow into those pipes, and that would help. But one of the more significant issues was at Holiday Court. It's hard to see in that picture in the top in the center, but that is at Sunny Acres and Holiday Court. And where that tree is about where the 24-inch culvert crosses. But it's hard to see because it's mostly buried. So one thing is to clean that culvert out and maybe improve the drainage ditches on the north side to help get water in there. But the other problem is, even if you clean that out, the water didn't have really anywhere to go except run down the street. I don't know how good y'all are reading contours, but when the contours like this point uphill on Holiday Court, that means that's kind of a big swale. So if you clean out that 24-inch under Sunny Acres, and you clear a path, and it's probably just running right down Holiday Court. You got to give it somewhere to go. But then you have to figure out what you're going to do with it. One option, and the price we put in here, $344,000, was for doing this, but it might be more than you want to do for the smaller road. But what we were proposing was putting curb and gutter along that street, because then you can pipe the water from the 24 all the way down Holiday Court. Plus, they're like puts a couple of inlets in to capture what's coming down Holiday Court through that swale I was talking about. Because you also have water. It's a low point right there on the Sunny Acres Road. So even you got flow from the 24 culvert, but then you also have water coming off that road. So one option is to install curb and gutter and install some more inlets to capture that flow and send it past the homes down Holiday Court. But there's probably some other ways to do it too if you didn't want to spend that much money on it. But I just wanted to point out right now, that discharge from that 24-inch, if it gets cleaned out, it's going to just run right down Holiday Court, and that has potential to cause problems for some of those homes.
How effective, in your opinion, and how, I mean, it would probably take a while, like, for instance, you're saying this is a low-lying point. There's not much of anywhere else for the water to go. Natural vegetation, like, you know, if I had a property and I had a spot that just continuously had water, I would attempt to put like a willow tree or something there that would naturally suck up water like that. But I'm thinking that that probably would take a very long time for that tree to be large enough to sustain that kind of stuff. So is there anything you know of, like natural vegetation-wise, that can help with stuff like that? Or if it's just more effective to cut a hole and make it go somewhere else?
Well, I mean, we modeled a 25-year event, which is a pretty significant event. The tree option, like you're talking about, does help, but for 25-year flows, should be a lot of water coming down there, and I don't think that would help a whole lot for this.
It wouldn't make the impact it would need to.
So this is on Walker Street. I believe it's also in the Packlet Mills area, kind of on the southern edge. And this is where there's I believe, a collapsed culvert. So this is kind of a simple improvement, just, there's 2 existing grade inlets there, and we propose just replacing both the grade inlets and the pipe and sending it, piping it off downhill between those homes. Okay, so this is the Michael Estates area. And we also were informed that several of these homes experienced flooding. I think it's pretty easy to see why. This is a picture of the culvert underneath Mountain Street right up there. And currently, it discharges into nothing except that neighborhood. You know, once again, those contours, if you see them, they indicate basically a very wide swale right through all those homes. So right now, whatever's crossing, I believe it's an 18-inch RCP, it's not discharging into a roadside ditch, it's just discharging into that neighborhood. So one option we proposed was to put a junction box on the downstream end where this pipe is and pipe the flow all the way down the south side of Pine Street. You would have to replace a couple of, or you would depend on how you might do it. You have to pipe through several driveway entrances. But there is a creek down to the east, and so you can pipe it so that flows, so it discharges towards that creek rather into the neighborhood.
This particular project that got the attention of Senator Shane Martin, because at least 1 or 2 of the property owners had gotten issues with it and didn't know who to call, had called Shane Martin and ended up talking to Spartanburg County and realizing that it was kind of a Packlet thing. And we went back to even look at that there should have been a stormwater plan when the neighborhood was built. But it does not look like there ever was a stormwater plan. And so now it's an issue of what to do now.
I mean, does that come back on the developer for not doing it or for the town for not doing it?
I think because it's been so long since this happened, I think it'd be hard to do that. But we could try. But at the same time, it would have been something that either the county or the Department of Health and Environmental Services should have reviewed. There should have been a lot of steps, because when you do any type of kind of work, large project like that, that's going to disturb that much of the ground, it should have been flagged by either Spartanburg County or the Department of Environmental Services to get approvals beforehand.
Yeah, because Michael Estates predates us taking any kind of responsibility for building things, right? That predates Town of Packlet doing the surveys and things for that. That would have been.
The Michael Estates was, I believe, done back in the 90s, late 90s, or mid to late 90s, and it took a long time for them to sell off all those lots that are out there.
Okay. So the one other question I had too, because I know you were doing all the very hot spots, but one of the things here is, Cameron Street, and then the other one's down here at the old mill. When you're fixing stuff like that, I'm assuming you probably want to start from the bottom and work your way uphill. Is that typically, because I would hate for us to do a project and then we turn around and the other area is also impacting that area, and we should have done one before the other, if that makes sense. So, when you're looking at Cameron Street, that was a big hot spot, and it's sitting up here on the hill. The mill down here where the flood spot is.
I see, yeah. So
do you
it'd
see
be
what I'm
flow,
saying? Like,
yeah.
does one impact, and then I know we have some people here tonight, too, that up here even further, they're seeing issues in their yards and things. And I'm thinking it's because all that drainage the whole way down is just probably clogged up. So where do you start higher and work your way down, or do you start lower and work your way up?
That kind of depends on the situation. One of our, one of our parts of that CIP matrix, and hopefully we caught that one, was if doing one project requires coordination with another project also being done. So that would be a case where, yeah, they both would need to be done together.
Like simultaneously almost, to
Yeah,
make it
because you're right,
effective.
those are 3 pipes that would be discharging uphill of the cloth warehouse.
If that gets fixed, then it's just getting more water that it can't deal with at that point.
Yeah.
Well, with getting a camera through all that we would see where those issues are, right? I mean, we would be able to tell that it's backed up from one neighborhood to another because there's a blockage or a clog.
Yeah, the cammering would help a lot, because it would help resolve the connectivity. And like I said, I think just from being out there that there's areas of new development where you know you can't get to it, but you know there's a trapezoidal channel underneath the sidewalk. But it's almost guaranteed it's been cut off at some point. It no longer leads to the river. Just an example, on the north side of the river in the Packlet Mills area, way up the hill, there's an open channel there's a concrete step. I don't know if you know where this is. There's some concrete steps on the east side, and there's a modern single-wing catch basin on the opposite side, and the single-wing catch basin goes off in the direction of where those steps are, where there's an inlet, and it disappears, but it's heading downstream towards the river on the east side of the road.
It's on Limestone Street.
I was gonna say right over here behind the church. Yeah, the big opening behind the
Yeah,
church down
but
here. yes.
downstream, it looks like under the sidewalk, there are manholes, but they look like they're sanitary sewer manholes.
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, it's so they could potentially
So they might have
overlap.
just put those in and just cut off the old historic trapezoidal channel, and that's the kind of thing. And we tried to do the best we can to try to find outfalls along the Packlet River, but it's treacherously steep, and so we had trouble getting down there. But that's just it. If you can video them and see what actually is going on, that would go a long way to help figuring out the solution.
You've got situations where you've got, a lot of these homes, they back up to a creek that runs into the river, and then you got water that's out of the road, and then the quickest, the easiest thing to do is to get it out behind the homes and into the creek. And in cases like the people who are here tonight, that line that goes from the street out to the creek has caved in. And another one we saw was Walker Street, where it has caved in, where the drainage line went between the homes down the hill and into the creek. Is some areas that need to be TV'd, that need to be identified as, are they clogged up and just need to be blown out, or they need to be completely abandoned and rebuilt. A lot of these are old clay pipes, and so it may not be something that you want to repair. You may just want to replace with PVC.
So, but we have something out for a grant for the CCTV.
Yes, we have a grant in place for that right now.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir.
Moving to item number 6, citizen comment, Lisa Anderson. Hello.
Excuse me. I'm Lisa Anderson, like he said, and this is my husband, Jimmy. And most of you may know my mother, Louise Rochester, nickname was Bugs. She lived on 191 Brewster Street in Packlet Mills, and she passed away March the 20th of this year. And about 3 years ago, I think it was, I reported to y'all at the town that there was a sinkhole, was what I called it, excuse me, in the yard, and it's just gotten worse. And my concern, and I brought some pictures, but My concern is the sidewalk, because there's nothing up under the sidewalk holding it up, and the road also. And can we do the picture? Oh, y'all have the pictures,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
I'm
we
sorry.
looked at
Okay, in the first picture, it shows like the drain is over here in the gully. And so when it rains, it comes under the road, and then there's a hole there, and you can see it better in some more pictures. But then it runs on down the hill, like he said, and it goes into a creek back behind my mother's house. And so here's, again, like the hole here that I'll show you later. And this barrel here, we put down in a hole that collapsed in her yard. So that barrel's about halfway down in the hole. So we went and we just kind of measured it just to give you an idea of what it kind of was. This is my mother's yard and the sidewalk here. And so it's like 25 inches we measured up under the sidewalk and before we could hit into anything. So I know it goes up under there. And then putting the ruler on the sidewalk it's about 6 inches. The hole's about 6 inches wide. And there's also on this picture, you can see it's a big crack in the sidewalk. So I just wanted to show you that. And then it was about 48 inches deep, beside, the sidewalk and her land.
Excuse me,
And then we
Lisa.
measured it, and it was like 35 feet.
Lisa, that's right at the sidewalk, it was 48 inches deep right there?
I'm sorry?
At the sidewalk?
Yeah.
It's 48 inches deep right there?
Yes, yes. And it's 35 inches long. And then I wanted to show you this. This is the hole in her yard. And Glenn Hall was cutting her grass a couple of years ago and fell through the land, her yard. And he said he went in about chest high. So, and that hole's still there. And it's almost 26 inches wide in the yard. And so I was told that, tonight y'all were trying to put it into priority of what needs fixing and that sort of thing. So I was just hoping that, we could prioritize this because my concern is like, there's children that ride their bikes and people obviously walk up and down the sidewalks and then cars go over that road every day. And so I was just concerned with something, happening. And anyway, just hope you can make that a priority and, because it's definitely a safety concern. And then also, just one day I hope to sell my mom's house, but I can't right now with all that going on. But thank y'all for your time.
I got a couple questions. Is the hole in the yard getting bigger, or is that pretty much?
Yeah, it is.
And then it
Because
looks-
in the beginning, the barrel just kind of sat on top of the hole. That's right.
And it
So now
looks
it's down
like-
in it. But the hole, there is more dirt in the hole. It's not as deep as it was, but I guess as it rained and dirt was just pushed around.
Right, and it looks like this at the sidewalk, every time it rains, that's probably widening a little bit and
It
getting a
is,
little bit
yes.
bigger every time it rains.
Yes.
So I think what we really need to look at is a temporary solution, at least to get that blocked up, so that's not getting bigger and it's not a hazard. I mean, that seems like an important safety issue with it. It's
Right. That's
at least something temporary until we can get the full effect of getting these
Okay.
done.
Yeah, it's gonna collapse one day.
Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
especially with,
Drop somebody, you got a whole different world messing again.
yep, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a lot of things to consider with this, and I want council to be aware that, as far as I know, and I've talked to Ms. Lemons about this, is when the mill built all of this stuff, did the mill transfer the stormwater system to the town? If they didn't, then we would have to go through and get easements on all of these properties to be able to do all the work that's on the properties. It could be filled in if we're abandoning that pipe. It shouldn't be filled in if we're going to repair that pipe. I don't know what needs to be done And I would hate to, the concern I always have is I hate for us to fill something in and then come back later on and we've got to take everything back out and to be able to use it. But I think a lot of this stuff is the old clay pipes that just really needs to be ripped out and build something new in there.
Well, I think there with that sidewalk, that's being a safety issue, and we have to find, I mean, obviously other people have this problem. We need to find out what the temporary solution is just to make it safe. And it's, the hole's big enough now, if a little kid's riding his bike through or even walking through, chasing a dog, anything could fall underneath that sidewalk, and then who knows where from there. So I think we really need to find at least a temporary solution.
Well, and my question too is, I mean, since this is something that would have been an easement with Milliken, have we tried to have discussions with them about the seriousness of the failing of the infrastructure here? You know, would they perhaps, because we've been doing a comprehensive plan, because we're trying to move in a good direction, do they offer grants? Does Packlet Milliken offer grants that they would be willing? And then that would eliminate, even if they didn't give an easement, that's their property at that point. But I don't know what the relationship with them looks like. But I mean, I would think that something that you put this much time and money in, and that you didn't completely dissolve your easements and things, you still have ties to it, perhaps, maybe you would want to help with it. So I don't know if that's a possibility if Packlet Milliken, do you know if they do grants? Does Packlet Milliken?
I don't think they do any of that kind of stuff.
What is the property address? I think I missed it.
It's 191 Brewster Street.
Thank you.
I also had someone that couldn't be here either, and it's 315 Stone Street, and they're having issues in their back alleyway with it running down and eroding the back alleyways, which those are a whole nother thing, because the alleyways, I don't believe, had any kind of drainage stuff in them from what I was looking at with the mapping that he was showing us. But a lot of that could be because the drainage isn't happening in other places. So it seems like there's a whole trickle-down effect coming from up here all the way down this way. And I'm not sure, do we have the address to the one that's back on Walker Street? I was going to try to compile a list so we have the one that was having issues back on Walker Street too. Do we know that address?
It's all in your book.
It's all in here, okay.
Yeah, in the back section on there is all those projects, those priority projects and the cost and all that kind of stuff. It's all in your book.
Okay.
All right. Do we have any other discussion on the matter for now? Okay, item number 7, can I get approval of the minutes for June 4th, 2026?
Motion to approve minutes for June 4th, 2026.
Second.
All in favor? Any against? Item number 8, can I have a motion that we go into executive session regarding personnel?
Make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Okay, so be it. All in favor? All right. Can I have a motion that we leave executive session and return to open session?
Motion to return to open session.
I have a second.
I second.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Do I have a motion that we proceed with the retirement bonus discussed?
I make that motion.
And I second.
All in favor? Any against? Thank you. All right, department reports. Town administrator.
The highlights on here that I wanted to make sure that you're aware of is item number 6, the selecting a date and time for the code enforcement workshop. There is, the 16th is the Municipal Association of South Carolina. I'm not sure if y'all wanted to come back from that. And then on the 23rd, the town clerk's not going to be here. So we could do it the 9th or the 30th, or we could make it work out for the other times that are on there.
I'm fine with 9th or 30th.
The only thing I still want to check on with, I was trying to get a couple dates from you guys because I also need to reach out to making sure the chief, CCNI, and the judge can be there because I think it's important for y'all to understand the entire process, even to how they're sentenced and how the code enforcement stuff and everything's done.
Okay, wait a minute. I have a question.
Yes.
So we talking about the code enforcement workshop?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you saying we need to choose between the 9th, 16th, and the 23rd?
The 9th, 16th, the 23rd, or the 30th. I have found out since I sent this to you that the town clerk is planning to be gone on the 23rd. So that's, if that's the only date that works, then it's the only date that works, and we'll work that out.
Well, I would say the 30th, because I will be gone also on the 23rd.
Okay. Now, is the 9th and 30th, are those possibilities? We prefer the 30th, but the 9th is a possibility?
Either way.
Yes.
9th is not a possibility. I will
9th is
be
not a
here.
possibility for you?
Me either.
Okay.
So how are we on the 30th?
Same.
30, I'm good on the 30th.
I'm good on the 30th.
Okay, so I'll reach out to all of them and see if we can all make this happen on the 30th. Item number 9, originally when I sent this out to you, I had a quote from SDG Electric that stated that they were going to do it for $22.50. I'd gotten an additional quote, a company called J. Frank Blakely Company, and they quoted $1,582. That was another, they would install the pole and they would hook the electrical up to it. And J. Frank Blakely was the original company. I could go ahead and move forward with this, but the problem I need to understand is where, if y'all want to move forward with this at all, but the other thing would be is if you want this to come out of hospitality tax or the capital fund.
I would like to think that we could hang it ourselves and have an electrician wire it, and that would probably save a lot of that money, probably 2/3 of that money.
I don't even know what.
I can check with him and find out how much of the cost was to set the pole, and then get back to council on that.
Appreciate it.
I'll check into that. Item number 10, I was able to get a preliminary number for a repair of the work to be done on Woodland Circle. That ended up being a lot lower than I thought it was going to be, but I still want to get a couple more quotes on there, and then I'll report back to council on that, and if y'all want to be able to move forward with that. Item number 11, after conducting several interviews, we have chosen someone. A couple of y'all have already met this individual. I apologize for that happening. The person that y'all were introduced to is one of her, like not a reference, but somebody I'd called about her. But Miranda Spencer has been hired to be the assistant town clerk, and she starts on July 6th. And then item number 14, we looked into tearing down these dilapidated buildings, and when I talked to the real estate contact that I have for Norfolk Southern, they suggested that I reach at the check into the right of entry to be able to tear these down first. The cost to applying for this is between $1,600 and $2,000 just for the application. It doesn't consider, we don't actually get approved on this. I'm sent some additional emails, and I'll call them back up and try to find out since we lease the property, we don't really need to have, I don't think we need to have a right of entry because we can already go on to the property. But we're still working through that. I do not advise going through this process and spending $2,000 on an application to tear down one of their buildings for them.
Where are we with the electric?
We have reached out to Duke. I don't have anything yet on there, but we have reached out to try to get them to get that disconnected, but it is a high priority.
Has anybody replied when you say
I haven't
reached
gotten a
out?
reply on there, as far as I know, but I'll reach back. It will be done as soon as, I'll get it, I'll say it's gonna be done by, give me a week or two.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll report back to you as soon as it does. Item 16, I think most of y'all are aware. I wanted to read this out so that if there's anybody at home who doesn't already know this. Please remember that there will be a town council meeting held on January 30th at 6 p.m. to honor the work and service of Tony Kirby to the town of Packlet. Please come prepared to tell a story, share your thoughts, or offer your appreciation for her 52 years of service to the town. A reception will follow with food, drink, and cake. We are preparing for 150 to 200 people to attend, so please share the information with anyone you know that has connection with Mrs. Kirby.
June 30th.
You said January.
Yes, June 30th. June 30th. Thank you.
Good catch.
Thank you. It is, the flyers are all correct, and the advertisement and everything else all says June 30th. My apologies on that. That's all I have for my report. I also had some additional items that the Public Works was able to complete from the June 5th meeting until now. And that completes all the departmental reports.
All right, thank you. We are thankful for our Public Works also. Do we have any board, commission, or committee issues?
No, sir.
Moving to unfinished business. We're moving to item A, consider on second reading to adopt the town of Packlet's annual budget for the fiscal year 2027.
I make a motion to adopt the Town of Packlet annual budget for 2027.
Chantel, this is your cue. You got anything for us?
At this point, I guess I'm going to second it. It looks good. I would really appreciate that as we go through this new budget year, that we stay on top of month to month, looking at how this money is being spent, because I've had a lot of trouble with our operating budget and seeing what exactly goes where into what
Yeah,
department. I would really, like, this looks great on paper like this. I want it to stay like that detailed. So if this is gonna, if we're sure, Patrick, that it's gonna cover any increases, then
It's gotten
yes.
complicated, but yeah, we may just need to approve it, and if something comes up, then address it then, maybe change it then.
Yeah, I just, it's kind of complicated, but I'll second it. I'll second approving it.
All in favor? Any opposed? Moving to item B, consider on second reading ordinance 2026-08 to rezone partial 329-14-005.03. That's 6630 South Pine Street. It's 3-29-08-045.01. 1413 North Highway 150 from C1 to C2.
Motion to approve second reading of ordinance 2026-08.
I second.
All in favor? Any opposed to it? Thank you. Item C, consider second reading ordinance 2026-09 to rezone parcel 3-29-15 029.00 6861 South Pine Street from C1 to C4.
Motion to approve on second reading ordinance 2026-09.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Moving to item D, consider second reading ordinance 2026-10 to rezone partial 3-33-03 027.00 68060 South Pine Street from R20 to C4.
Motion to approve on second reading ordinance 2026-10.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Moving to item E, consider on second reading ordinance 2026-12 to amend section 3-14, and that's RMH, to correct the inconsistency of lot sizes.
Motion to approve on second reading ordinance 2026-12.
I second.
All in favor? All opposed? Thank you. Item F, consider second reading ordinance 2026-14 to rezone parcel 3-33-03-027.01. It's a 6850 South Pine Street from R20 to C1.
Motion to approve on second reading ordinance 2026-14.
Second.
All in favor? We have any opposed? Thank you. Consider item G, consider a second reading ordinance 2026-16 to amend ordinance 2026-01 to modify a previous relation to nonconformant owner-occupied residents and structures.
Motion to approve on second reading ordinance 2026-16 to amend ordinance 2026-01.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Let's move on to number 12, new business. Consider first reading ordinance 2026-19 to rezone 391 Glen Springs Road, 3-33-0-063.01 from multi-family residence to C1 transitional commercial.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2026-19 to rezone 391 Glen Springs 3-33-00-06301.
I second it.
I need some clarification, please.
Sure, this is the property that's the former doctor's office that was on 150. Previously, it had been requested to rezone it from MFR to C2, and it was, I believe it was denied by the Planning Commission, and then it came to you guys and it failed the first reading on that. And the reasoning being was that C2 allowed for restaurants to be located in there, and the people who lived across the street were not in favor of restaurants.
Right.
C1 has recently been changed by council at a previous council meeting, at the June 5th meeting, in which restaurants are only allowed as a conditional use in C1. If a restaurant wants to come into C1, they have to go before the Board of Zoning Appeals. There has to be a public hearing. They have to put together a plan that is that works for the Board of Zoning Appeals in terms of hours of operation and the type of business that ends up going in there. And it has to not have a negative impact of the community that's there. So that was the biggest concern, is that not what it could be now, but what it could be down the road. And they didn't want that possibility of it being a restaurant. There's still that possibility, but you have to go through a lot more hoops to go through that process. And the people who lived in the area are okay now that C1 has changed. They're
So
okay.
where do we get the okay? Did they show up?
Yes.
So the people showed up at the planning commission meeting?
The one who was most concerned about it came to the Planning Commission meeting. Due to the timing of when this was done by the Planning Commission and the deadlines that are required by the Post and Courier, there was not enough time to put a public hearing notice in the paper. It requires 15 full days. And so there will be your second reading in August. We'll have a public hearing prior to that second vote, that second reading on there.
Okay, I had a motion and a second. All in favor? Okay, thank you. I guess any against?
Mr. Did you vote on that last one? Okay.
All right, we're going to item B, consider first reading ordinance 2026-13 to rezone partial 329-15-03.00, and this is 6855 South Pine Street from C1 to C4.
Motion to approve on first reading ordinance 2026-13.
Second.
All in favor? Any against? Thank you. Item number C, discussion regarding decorating the traffic circle.
So I added this, we talked about this there's been a lot of discussion about this for years, probably, and nothing's really come of it. And then in my just talks with Chantel, she kind of brought it up again and kind of, I guess, pushed me to look into it more. But I talked with one of the directors at DOT, I forget his name. Yeah, sorry. So I think Chantel, you wanted to put like the town tree and
Yeah.
then maybe something around it. Did you have anything more specific, or it doesn't have to be specific? But the main
No.
issue was the tree allowed, and he told me that as long as it doesn't get bigger than 5 inches around, somewhere in there, just for breakaway purposes, then we can do just about anything in the center. And his thought on that is that they actually want to inhibit the visibility across the circle, so people aren't looking at traffic across the circle. As long as there's visibility to the left, they want everyone looking left, obviously, as traffic comes around. So he said, center of the circle, fine. Anything to the left, would be an issue if it blocked. So
What happens when it gets to 5 inches? Does it have to be cut down?
I might have to replace it.
Like the trunk?
gonna check?
around- Like, what is it?
The
What is it?
trunk. the
5
trunk.
inches.
So we probably have 8 or 10 years before,
We just plan
We
a
have
new
to
one
think about that
every,
again.
like, decade or so, just.
or we let it go and no one checks, as long as we have got safe drivers.
Yeah.
But, so my question to council is, do you guys want to approve some money to that, for that, or no?
I don't want to see a tree there.
Okay. What do you want?
Maybe some flowers,
Something.
some wildflowers that'll grow back every year, something like that. I don't want to see a tree there. I
So
think
the-
that's going to become a problem in the long run.
So the plan was a tree surrounded by flowers, but no on the tree?
No tree, just the flowers.
I don't like a tree.
What
Just
about,
for the aesthetics, or?
Yep.
didn't you say there's a lady that said about decorative rocks and things? Like, what was their
So
thoughts on the
I found a
rocks?
volunteer that would love to do the decorative flower part, and I thought if we could provide her with some materials, some pavers to create a bed and some plants, she would like to do the work. That would obviously save the town some money. I was hoping to get like $500 dedicated to it, but maybe not if we want to go with something else.
Yeah.
I don't want this to be a conflict. I mean, it's just a decorative item,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah, I mean,
The rocks and the flowers.
So the rocks may be an issue depending on the size of the rocks. Like, I think like bed liner
a
is
flat,
fine.
a flat paver
Yeah.
for the edge would
Yeah,
probably be.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that's an issue. I think that would go without saying, just to give our public works something to weed whack, up against. I was really hoping to put the town tree in the center, though.
Well,
Only one person.
I'm for, I'm for the decorating of the circle
I mean,
myself. It's all grand, and I'm for the tree. That's just myself. I think the more nature we can have out there, it'll be more attractive to me. That's just my opinion.
Well, I think
Maybe we can try it, and then if it gets to be too tall,
well, at 5 inches, we have to remove it anyway.
right, so,
So why don't what we could do is maybe approve some funds and then just, I don't think we have to vote on exactly what goes in the circle, maybe just talk about that.
I mean, we could even put it, like, one of the things I've noticed from traveling in different areas is a lot of those traffic circles, they utilize it as a way to kind of showcase what their town is. Like, some of the, at the beach have the palm trees and the lighting and stuff, and that's why I suggested the Packlet tree. But if there's something that, like, people really come up with, it thinks, hey, this is represents Packlet really well.
So
Even
Jane-
if somebody
yeah.
wants to send in designs,
What
you know?
about the horse that's on the old
Oh,
bridge?
I mean, we can bring them over here and
I would
stick
love
them
to
right in
move
the
the
middle.
horse from the old bridge over.
So Jamie found a better horse.
A
like
better
like a
horse?
bronze
I did find a
horse,
bronze
but that
6.5
is-
foot
It's some
horse.
money.
But
Some
it's
money.
$3,500, so that's pricey, but.
But something, I mean, it's a way to kind of really say, this is kind of our identity here, and that's part of embracing what we're going forward.
Yeah, I
in.
agree. I just, the only thing I would say is as long as it's low maintenance,
Yeah.
as long as it's not going to be so much that it's a burden. But, you know, horse, tree, I think the fiberglass horse would be fine. I don't particularly like the look of that. I think it's great where it is. But as far as a bronze horse, we may have to ask whether that is breakaway enough. Because that may be a safety issue.
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe we all just come back, get some designs or something, like, I mean,
Do
you
we
know.
want to approve a couple bucks for, I
I
guess
mean,
if we don't know
I'm
what we're
good
doing,
with
then it might be hard to do.
How about we try to get some ideas and get some plans of what you want to do, and then we'll see where we
That
are.
sounds good.
sounds good to me.
Some April likes.
All right, closing comments, Ms. Walker?
No comment.
Ms. Green?
No, sir. No comments.
Mr. Thomas?
No, nothing.
Mr. Jamie? Ms. Lemons?
Well, just thank you, everybody, for working so hard, all the employees and everybody, and the planning commission, because we've been going through stuff. They've been meeting with a lot of things, but thank you all for the hard work y'all put in, everybody.
I just want to thank Public Works. I want to thank Patrick, and I want Miss Gilbert and Miss Tony. Y'all do what y'all do best. And as far as closing, I was told to mention one more time, June 30th, Miss Tony's celebration. If you can't come out and join us, have a happy 4th of July. 250 years. I hope you like the banner that we have posted just to show that we are for America and our freedom. And with that, can I have a motion that we adjourn the meeting for tonight?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Anybody against? We're done.